How many people have seen Terminator? Terminator 1, Terminator 2, Terminator 3, but tonight we're going to be Terminatoring it with Mr. Conspiracy Theater, our second episode, 80s classic, and we're going to jump onto this thing tonight, and stay tuned because we got a lot to unravel in this Mystery Conspiracy Theater with Terminator, so just stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to FOJC Radio Sunday Night Live. We are live here on a Sunday night, and this is Mystery Conspiracy Theater. So we're going to be going all the way down the rabbit hole. We heard last night on the Midnight Ride how Mr. Elon Musk said, very soon there's going to be more robots than people. The idea of synchronicity is not nearly as hard to conceive as it was when this movie, The Terminator, first came out. So tonight, Brian Reese is going to be taking us upon a journey into the deep hidden meaning of this Terminator movie. And it just certainly seems to be coming full circle. And it is so timely for us to be taking a look at this time. So, Brian, I'm very thankful to be on this broadcast with you. So let's kick Mystery Conspiracy Theater in gear, my friend. Let's rock. How you doing tonight?
I'm hanging in there, David. I'm doing pretty good. I want to apologize, everybody. I had a few tech issues at the beginning of the program. Sorry for the delay in the program and the broadcast tonight. But, Brother David, I'm doing great. A little rush there because of the technological stance. There's some things that are tearing down. I guess they know that we're going to be talking about Skynet, and we're going to be talking about all kinds of different concepts when it comes to conspiracy theater. I guess the powers that be did not want this program to go on, David, because I had so many technical difficulties.
Not.
I agree with that, Brother David. So, folks, here we are tonight on the Terminator Mystery Conspiracy Theater. Probably one of my, top 10 favorites as far as the series. I've watched it many, many times, thousands of times. Watched it during the times of old 80s, 90 times, when I was a youngster, and seeing it with, uncles and father and whoever else I watched it with. But, back in the day, the TV, right, they didn't do the unrated stuff, all that good stuff. So I'm going to make a disclaimer. Some of the things we're going to be talking about tonight might be too sensitive for your younger viewers, so putting a disclaimer out there because we are talking about a pretty rated R movie. I wouldn't say pretty, but yeah, so we're going to get into it. So Terminator getting tongue-tied tonight, folks. Mystery Conspiracy Theater.
And also, I want to say, Brian, that we are decoding this movie because of the tremendous impact it's had on culture and the way that its predictive programming has shaped the culture and the minds of people for literally generations. I think it's 40 years ago this came out. That's amazing. Isn't that right? 40 years ago?
That is correct, David. And that's why I wanted to do it.
Yeah. So we're not saying, yes, go watch this movie. We're not saying that or not advocating people watching it. But what we are decoding this so that the impact of the predictive programming will become aware of. And it is certainly a most timely thing. It has certainly come full circle.
Absolutely, David. And speaking of, too, I'm going to throw in here before we get going the program, but I don't want to go long-winded here. But we don't want to. Well, like David said, we don't want to promote it. But I hope we don't ruin it for you if it's your favorite flick, because after tonight you might be questioning everything about it. Well, let's just go ahead and jump into it on here. So the first slide here, I went ahead and took a screenshot. I got tons of slides tonight, ton of content, so stay with us, folks. I'm a little rocky start here at the beginning. Not feeling too well either, so here we are at the live feed. So sorry to make any excuses, but let's get into it. So this slide is at the very beginning of the film, and I thought it was so telling because, here we are today in 2024, and like Brother David was saying earlier, I said to him the other night, I said, let's do a Terminator's Conspiracy Theater because it's so timely, because the 40-year anniversary, this film came out in 1984, and I thought, we can't do it on 2025, we got to do it on 2024. So here we are the last month, and I wanted to make it happen, so check us out. So this slide says, the machines arose from the ashes of nuclear fire. Their war to exterminate mankind had raged for decades, but the final battle would not be fought in the future. It would be fought here in our present tonight, right? So speaking of this, isn't it interesting that the technological advancements, I just did a program on my visual disturbance channel, exposing all these different things, AI components. There's AI systems saying now that you won't even be able to differentiate holographic or spiritual applications when it comes to, let's just say the fallen powers to be. You won't be able to blur the lines. You won't be able to even preconceive. Your perception's going to be way off here in the future because we're living in times of this great shift of technology. But where is it taking us? Like John Pounders and David Carrico talked about the other night on the Midnight Ride. It could either go both ways. Elon could push us into a vortex of nothingness, into the abyss, or it could be to where it advances mankind and maybe get us out of a poverty state. I don't know. It's yet to be determined. We'll see. But speaking of this program, time travel, here we're going to make a disclaimer. Me and Brother David have a strong stance on time travel. I'm still on the fence even to this day. I will look and evaluate the data. I will dig into the data and just set it on the shelf for a rainy day, so to speak. But I do like to really focus on it. There's a lot of things that would be coming off as time travel when it comes to the Thoth character we've talked about in our later series, on a couple of series on Atlantis Rising and Atlantis trilogy we had. So there's certain things that I think that they could hide behind, like the Halls of Amity, like these fallen can do stuff to make mankind be deceived at all fronts. And then on the sense of the human's perspective, it looks like the perception of time travel. So let's get into the next slide. Los Angeles, 1984 at 1:52 a.m. This is when the very first of the opening of the program. This man comes up. It's a garbage man. This man is trying to just deploy the garbage and pick up the garbage. So what happens is all of a sudden there's this magnetic field and this disruption, right, into his motor. His lights turn off. He's like, and he says some choice words. He says, blankety blank blank, and he says, hail, what the hell? And I hate to use that terminology. I'm not using it to gain entertainment, for people to hit this video on that. That's not what I'm saying, but I don't use it in that sense. But he says it several times, and when he says it, his vehicle goes out, right? The electric current gets zapped, his battery, his whole motor and everything turns off, his alternator, the whole thing shuts off. And he says, what the, HE double sticks, and he turns the ignition, and it zooms in at focal point on the man turning the ignition. All of a sudden his van lights up, and then all of a sudden this happens, this lightning. So as you can see on the screen here, let me zoom in. I've done many programs talking about this. A lot of people might know, have heard of it. I don't know. But as you can see, there's like this blue light flame lightning everywhere hitting the garbage truck. So it goes on. So you look at the dark lightning, and if you can see here on the little slide here, it says also known as terrestrial gamma ray flash, right? An invisible burst of gamma radiation produced by thunderstorms. I want to point this out. There's so many different pre-predicted programming and films out there, and with the Hollywood narrative that use this lightning stance. I would say the video or the TV series Manifest also. But it goes on. This is the most electric natural radiation on Earth, with energies up to 20 million electron volts and lasting 0.2 milliseconds. So when you see this movie, you see these characters, they come in. So they come in as they're naked. And we're going to talk about that later on. You know, the T100, the T800 comes in, the first one. So this gentleman sees him, and he's popping up on the screen. It's old Arnold Schwarzenegger. You know, he's tall. Yeah, I'll be back. So he's being, you know, he comes through in 1984. So it looks like a bright light, an orb, right? There's a lot of, in the news now, especially here in the last few weeks, the orb narrative keeps popping up. So Arnold's looking around, he's observing, he's tilting his head. I was going to show some video footage, but I just didn't want to get hit with a copyright strike, folks. Even though this is a 1984 film, I didn't want to get hit with a strike here. So he's looking around, he's observing, and he observes Los Angeles. So he goes to this scene, and he's observing Los Angeles, and you know his ultimate goal was to find Sarah Connor. That's his mission, his primary mission. He's there to destroy the whole genealogy of so-called John Connor coming in the future. So when he goes and he's observing Los Angeles, and I know Brother David and John Pounders have done a Midnight Ride on Los Angeles, isn't it interesting that he's like watching and observing? It almost reminds you of the Book of Enoch, you know, the light bearer, you know, this whole concept of this narrative. What do you say, David? Because it gets so deep into this narrative. What do you think about just this scene alone when Arnold's looking at Los Angeles? What do you say?
Well, that is the motif here as Arnold is watching the city. And I don't think it's coincidental that this was released in 1984, the same year that George Orwell immortalized as the big year of the conspiracy in his novel, 1984.
Absolutely. So the next slide, I agree with that too. So the next slide, what's so interesting after he walks down. So a lot of people have missed this. A lot of people's missed this. Me and David done a program on this, but it's so interesting. It just flashes for a few seconds on the film, but this one right here, Arnold proceeds to walk, and he's walking down the sidewalk, but as you can see in the background, check out the building that the Terminator is walking away from. There's an obelisk right there in the middle of the courtyard, and here Arnold is in his glory. You know, he's not got any, he's in his meat suit, right, according to the T-800. And so the obelisk, so you got the obelisk and you got Osiris. It's almost like the light bearer, you know, when it gets into Greek mythology and also occult imagery. Osiris is being resurrected, right? But as you can see in the background there, there's these three domes. And what do you guys, does anybody know? David, do you know what these three domes are? This is an architect. The person that put this together was a gentleman. He was a Mason. He was a Freemason. And this movie is, it only shows it for a few seconds. So the gentleman that made it, his name is John C. Austin. He was a Freemason architect. So when you look at it and you think about what it actually is, it's the Griffith Observatory. The Griffith Observatory. So as you can see here, there's the domes, and you can see him walking down this sidewalk here, and here's where the obelisk. So I guess when they took the video footage of this movie and seeing that perspective, there's the obelisk, and he was walking down this way. But you can see here, there's some very, very insane architect work here to unravel. So when you think about what this man accomplished when John C. Austin, this free Masonic architect, he made this place, and it's called the Griffith Observatory of the Heavens. But I want to really, my focus is really on the octagon. The octagon on the very top of the observatory. As you can see here, it is green. And I've got it highlighted there. It's green. So me and David done some stuff on the Wizard of Oz. We've talked about different things when it comes to that. Follow the Yellow Brick Road, all that narrative. But when you look at this green octagon, you think about what's really going on here. And when we did our Back to the Future Decoded program, a lot of people wouldn't know this, but this specific, there's a tunnel underneath, David, underneath this green octagon. And we're going to talk about this green octagon, what's inside of it. there's a place called the tunnel underneath the Griffith Observatory is commonly referred as the Mount Hollywood Tunnel. It particularly famous of the famous appearances in movies like Who Framed Roger Rabbit, where it was depicted as the entrance to Toontown. So Mount Hollywood Tunnel, this observatory is built on a high mountain, and you can look out and you can see that it shows of Los Angeles. You could go, and I know it's a tourist attraction and all that, but I wanted to focus on this tunnel. So, Brother David, what movie do you remember that we done? Like I said, I just talked about it just a few moments ago, but doesn't this ring a bell with this tunnel underneath this observatory? And what do you think about it? Because we're talking about some of our older programs, but why would they use this? And what do you think about this observatory, David?
Well, what it brings to my mind, we see here the motif of an observatory, people looking at the stars, and then we see the people coming down from above. It reminds me of Mount Graham and the Jesuit Lucifer telescope on Mount Graham, where, the same thing, the observatory here is tied in. So it's the old motif of observing the stars, the host of heaven, people coming down from the skies, and the tunnels we've talked about many times, that underneath many of these ancient megalithic structures, that there are tunnels. So all of these things fit together and all the boxes check here in this nice little package. And these things are so quick. They're just on the basis of a subliminal impression almost. And these are things that people that understand the symbology, it means something to them. Certainly, people that are in the know, in lore and Masonic dogma, they understand these things. But it's just really amazing the way they pack so much in their symbolism and the way that they set things up.
I agree 100%, David.
Now, also, wasn't this film done by James Cameron?
With the Terminator, that is correct. Mm-hmm. That is correct. Can you hear me, David?
Brian?
You can't hear me.
I've lost Brian. I don't know whether you can hear me.
Yeah, so we've been having some tech issues,
I'm
folks.
I'm going to keep talking.
Yeah, go ahead, David.
Okay, I don't know if Brian can even hear me now or if you all can, but I'm going to go out and sign back in and see if we can make connection here.
I'm sorry about that, everybody. David will be coming back with us here in a few moments, but as of right now, I'll continue on. And I'm so sorry, folks. We've had so many issues this afternoon. It's been an interesting day. So, speaking of this Mount Hollywood Tunnel, while David comes back in here tonight. So there's all kinds of other things when we want to remember, because later on the program, I'm really going to be focusing and getting into the Terminator movie. But remember this green octagon. Remember it. Keep that in mind. Don't forget, because it's going to be relevant back in the middle of the program here. So when you think about this gentleman, this Griffith Observatory, this John C. Austin, what kind of knowledge did he have? What kind of preconceived knowledge to be able to do something like this and pull off? And I would go as far as, Egyptology. He probably knew, he's probably masters of all kinds of different things where this man could do. I'm not trying to prop him up, but when it comes to this, he had to have some kind of preconceived knowledge, so to speak.
And Brian, I am back. Can you hear me?
I can sure do. There you are.
Well, good. This just isn't going to be easy tonight with all the technical problems, but y'all pray for us, and we're going to keep plugging. Go right ahead, Brian.
Yeah, so sorry about that. We're just having so many tech issues. I can only apologize so much. So speaking of the green octagon, Brother David, I was just telling the audience I was going to talk about and remember the green imagery. So when we get inside of this mural, there's a mural inside here, Brother David, and it's a mural. It's under the green octagon is a mural to Zeus. So why in the world? similar location where that garbage can was. Lightning was striking, dark lightning, mind you. And earlier I really kind of skipped around and kind of was scattered brained a little bit, but where we having these tech issues, it just kind of messed everything up. So, but dark lightning, it exists in nature. It exists out. It's not, it used to be, I read years ago that it was rare, but right now it's supposedly common in today's age, so to speak, as far as aviation and whatnot. But look at this under the green octagon inside a mural to Zeus. He's lightning, right? He puts the lightning out. That's what Greek mythology is all about, and you can see the lightning bolts. And then right here at the middle of what he's sitting on, it's a picture of Saturn. And there's the Saturn worship. It's right here at the green octagon in this observatory. I have all these Greek gods and everything, right? How much in your face can you get? So, not to mention that. That's from the air. That's from the roof stance underneath the ceiling. So what's on the floor? What's on the floor? So this imagery is from Macaulay Culkin. When I think it's I'm pretty sure it's from the Roger Rabbit, but I might be wrong. But forgive me for that, or Toontown, like we talked about a minute ago. But you can see a compass on the ground, right? You can see the north, south, east, west, and Macaulay Culkin is literally looking at this from when he sees the ceiling, and then that's what when he's looking down, when he's looking up, and then that's the floor, right? I really want to focus on this because later on we're going to make a connection with the Terminator, and it's going to be really interesting when we dissect and these predictive programs. I really do like these to dissect and decode these programs. So here he is looking at. You have the star here on the floor. David, why would they do this? Why would there be a compass? Why is all this stuff with this observatory? Is it here just for entertainment purposes and tourist attractions, David? What do you say about this? Why would this John Austin make this facility like this?
Well, everything is designed with the intent to create a portal. The way, and this goes back to Tartarian and even older building techniques like those the Templars used. But the very design of the building would create vibrations that would be conducive to the dark powers. The whole structure, you can see there in the layout of that bazaar, it looks like upside down crosses and all kinds of things you can just see in an instant with that whole layout of the ground. Then you've got the idolatrous pictures. You've got everything there. And here's like a focus point. Here's the compass, and everything is designed. They're welcoming entities here. It's like the creation of a portal or a little temple, if you will.
I agree 100%, David. And as we go back to the Terminator scenes, when we look at this obelisk and the Osiris rising up, so there's these three kids at the time. They're like three young men, and they're looking. So all this stuff has happened. The lightning has came down, struck the garbage truck, and these guys are just observing the stars here. And the guy goes, "What's up with this picture?" So he's literally, when he makes that connection, he takes the telescope and he's trying to look up at the sky, and the other guy fights him over it. They actually watch Arnold Schwarzenegger walk up, right? So they're making fun of him, mocking him and everything. They don't even know what they're dealing with, okay? So they just know that there's a naked man. They're making jokes and cutting, just hitting below the belt, so to speak, and making all kinds of different absurd, really bad language in this movie. But I will say this. After this one, the guy that said, "What's up with this picture?" he gets, let's just say he gets his heart being ripped out. And I thought to myself, Brother Dave, we've done many programs when we talked about the Aztec, the Mayans, and when we did our Cities Lost in Time. It's interesting that this scene, Arnold walks up and he's like, "Give me your clothes, give me your clothes," and they're like, really, they're mocking him, right? Because they think all three of them can take this huge man, right? So he literally instantly gets his heart ripped out. And I know you can comment on that. What do you think about that, David? Because there's a lot to expand upon. We're not even 4 minutes in, technically, when it comes to the film. And what do you think right here when he's getting his heart ripped out?
Well, in our Cities Lost in Time on Tenochtitlan, we connected the biblical passage where it says that Cain, there's two Enochs. There's Enoch, good Enoch, then there's Enoch in the line of Cain, the son of Cain. And it says in the scripture that he built a city and called it after his own name. Well, T. Enoch T. Leon, the name Enoch is right in his name, the ancient capital of the Aztec Empire, and the city even predated the Aztecs by many years. I believe that this is the city that was built by Cain's son. But the ritual that was performed there by the Aztec priest, it is said that they were able to actually reach into a person's chest and pull out their heart and hold the beating heart up so that before the mind lost consciousness, the last thing that that individual would see was his own heart beating in the hand of that Aztec priest. And this was very much connected in the architecture there with portals. You know, we showed the jaguars where they would pour the blood at the entrance of the portal and go down. And this is very much significant of it's not just violent Hollywood blood and gore, but it's the reenactment of an ancient ritual that's tied to the lineage of Cain.
Wow. And I never really thought about that. I never really thought about that, David, with the ties to Cain when it comes to that. Just on this scene, I really didn't think about that at the moment whenever I was.
That's what I'm here for, Brian. That's what I'm here for. Just trying to help, buddy.
Yeah, I appreciate it. So we have the T-800 coming in. He's already causing destruction. He's causing mayhem. He's, going around running up naked. He's looking around. The Griffith Observatory is, we're going to talk about it more here in a little bit. And then there's another one coming through, right? We have this, we have Kyle Reese. I'm not kin to him. I'm not associated. It's spelled different. Kyle Reese coming to the past. And I put the Dark Lightning logo up again because the little side note there, because I really wanted to focus, because this Dark Lightning, I'm going to talk about it and expand upon it later on. But as Kyle Reese comes in, he's not taking it too well, right? He's in a lot of pain. There's smoke coming off his body. The Terminator he's just a synthetic. He's an organic. There's like a organic skin suit around this titanium cyber suit, right? He's like a cyborg. And I thought it was interesting. They're showing pain, and I didn't want to have any nudity in here because I just think it's so, I just don't like doing that. I think it's grotesque, but I had to cut that part out. But he's like in the fetal position, David. It's almost like it reminded me of, coming into the world, right, out of the mother's womb. It's almost like mocking it a little bit. And there's a lot of blaspheming. I mean, I hate to desecrate and degrade this film, and I'm not trying to. I really am trying to be very kind at my presentation here, but there's a lot of blasphemous stuff in here, and we're going to be talking about some of the biblical references. So Kyle Reese is on this mission, right? He's in love with Sarah Connor. We'll find out that later on. But he goes and proceeds on. He's frantically trying to figure out what year it is. In this scene, I put calories. Hello, that's not right. Calorie. He's Frank, or it's all spelt wrong. Trying to figure out what the date and the year is, and he's talking to the cop to try to find out. Okay, sorry for the mishaps on the slides, but it's all chaos, right? He's trying to figure out the year and the date. So he doesn't even know what's going on. He don't even know if he's in the right time frame or not. Okay, he doesn't even know if he's made it back, and Sarah might be already gone because it's a one and done. He only has one opportunity to do this. He only has one shot at saving Sarah Connor. So here comes Sarah Connor. They introduce her in the film. She's punching in the old diner. She's oblivious to what's going on. Kyle Reese is frantically running around trying to figure out, where she's at. They don't have no clue. Even the T-800. We're going to find that here in a little bit. So Sarah Connor plugs in her time clock and all these different things. They're introducing the character. But David, there's a fun little plug in here on this movie. she's trying to assist all the customers. She's trying to give out as much as she can. Her shift starts. She's running late. But her coworker here, David, her coworker says something so profound to me. I thought it was just insane. In this scene, Sarah has ice cream put in her pocket because she's distracted. She's already spilled drinks and everything on some of her customers on these plates. All this plate of food everywhere. It's all chaos, right? So she reaches in her pocket and she finds out that she had literally ice cream in her pocket because the little kid next door scoops in, puts a little scoop of ice cream. Well, what I think the coworker said is so interesting in her statement, David. She said it won't matter in 100 years. And me and you've talked about it in private. We've done programs about it in the past. We've talked about Back to the Future, this whole time travel concept. And David, why would she say that? We've talked about it in, the Emerald Tablets. What's your take on this? Because that one blew my mind, Brother David. What do you think about that? It won't matter in 100 years. Why was she even saying that? It's just kind of strange to me.
Well, I think it's subtle predictive programming. It's like what we're seeing here in 100 years, it's going to be the point of synchronicity that what we're seeing here, yeah, this is just the tip of the iceberg. You just wait 100 years, it don't matter because it's all going to be toast.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and here's the nuclear war. That whole narrative is in the media right now. People are in fear. There's all kinds of different things being broadcasted across the airwaves. I mean, David, it's insane. So what happens after this scene? So you got Kyle Reese, searching for Sarah, but you also have the Terminator. He's searching, right? And on the slide here, I put, look at the numbers of the address. And make sure that I'm going to make sure I explain myself in a little bit on this. It's 14329 is the address, and the T-800, the Terminator, is going in, and he's going to literally clean out the gunsman, the gun shop. So he knows all his stuff. All of a sudden, he literally takes the man's life, and he steals all this weaponry. So little does Sarah know all this stuff is going down. And then Kyle Reese is looking for Sarah too. And it reminds me, like you alluded to earlier with the Book of Enoch, and we're going to talk about some things when it comes to giants, etc. here after a while. But it's almost like these characters are driven. There's like this subliminal messaging, like they're coming from the heavens. They're looking for a woman. And it almost reminds me of the Genesis 6 verse 4 narrative. But I know that this, you kind of get what I mean. There's like this paradox with it, David. What do you think? Because it's kind of interesting how that's all playing out. But that's the way I feel about it when I went back and rewatched this film with a new pair of eyes on it, for sure.
Yeah, the guys drop out of the sky and they're looking for a girl. That's the old Genesis 6 motif, no doubt about it.
Agreed. So Kyle Reese is looking for Sarah. Sarah and her coworker, the same shift, go and get her because she says, "Come here, Sarah." She's hearing about all these killings. There's these killings that are underway, supposedly going on. With the first one with Sarah Connor, and I'm going to show that I'm a little behind on that, but I'm going to show what happens with Sarah Connor, the first one. So not only do we have, look at the numbers of this address, 14329. I got ahead of myself here. If you look at this one's the first Sarah Connor that the Terminator is looking for. The Terminator finds the address. I think it's kind of interesting that the Terminator is looking for 3 Sarah Connors. There's 3 Sarah Connors in the Los Angeles telephone book, Brother David. There's 3 in this film. And forgive me for getting a little ahead of myself, everybody. But yeah, there's 3 Sarah Connors. And when he goes up to her door, look at the address. It says 14329. If you remember, obviously I know the gun store and he's driving down the street and there's different addresses, but I thought it was interesting that the 2 and the 3 were switched. So the gun store was 14329, and the first Sarah Connor is 14239. I thought it was just interesting how that all played out. So when he goes up to the door, this is the first Sarah Connor victim. So what's interesting, David, and we're going to talk about the addresses and what I found here in the connection here in a moment. He's like Sarah Connor, and interesting enough, I could not put the violence on there because that's not what we got to respect the channel. But he bursts the door open, breaks the chain. She's in complete shock, and I wanted to throw us out here, David, because I went back and watched it several times to make sure I'm sure on it. But here's this hidden predictive program and this symbolism, whatever it is, and we're going to really dissect it and pull back the onion, so to speak, on what's going on here. And how does this, you keep saying about synchronicity, right? Is there the synchronicity? What is it? And you'll see here in a minute when this all gets, we're at a slow start here with all the tech issues, but 6 shots, David, 6 shots on Sarah Connor, the first victim. 6 shots, David. Why?
He could have shot 5 or 7.
A little overkill, right? A little overkill.
But no, there's that number 6. Yeah, these numbers and these symbols, they just keep showing up.
Well, it's going to get interesting, David, and this is going to be up your wheelhouse. So, remember the 2 addresses. Look at the addresses. 1432 plus 9. 14 plus 32 plus 9 is 55. And then 23 plus 9 is 46. And if you take 55 and 46, it equals 101, David. It equals 101. How do you go through the door, right? The Terminator sneaking in. He's like, I'm coming through the door, right? I've already came through the Stargate. Now I'm going to come through your door, right? And the first thing I thought about, here we are talking about, John Austin, being the architect of the Masonic architect of the observatory. Well, David, the 101, David, and the first thing I thought of was Freemasonry. And what can you comment on this? Because this one really got me. This one really got me when I took the numbers and I added them all up, and I was like, so if I take those 2 addresses that he goes, the very first 2 addresses, and I thought it was so interesting that they equal that. What do you say about that, Brother David?
Well, there's not only that, but if you think about it, what do we got here? We got a girl, and there's the number, and then there's the name, and then there's bang, 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 6 shots on her. So it's kind of an illusion there, a subtle illusion to the eliminations of God people that don't have the right number and name. There's kind of that subtle motif there that's woven in there. And all of these things in the numbers, it's just amazing how they work out. You just can't believe that it's all coincidence. Some of it might be, but it's just hard to believe that it is. That, like it was said, but one wise fellow, nothing happens by coincidence.
I agree 100%, David. And when I look at that, and if you could comment on the 2 pillars, the Freemasonry, the 101, because the compass and everything, if you could let the audience know what this really is here. And why would the directors and the producers, why is this here? The numbers could have been anything else, and why did they come up? Well, how does that happen? It's not a coincidence.
Well, the pillars there, Jachin and Boaz, which were in the Temple of Solomon, and these have been perverted in Masonic lore and occult lore. And just like the entrance to the temple, there was Jachin and Boaz there in every lodge. These twin pillars are there upon entrance, and this is also used as entrance into gates and portals. And you see this symbolism all over occult literature. And well, here's where we start. We've got Freemasonry 101. Where do you start? You start by going through the gate, through the portal, and then you get on the playing field. And that would be the symbolic meaning of that, which we'd have there.
And I think it's very strange because we know that this movie, when we come to the end of it, the conclusion of it, we're going to all look at each other and say, hey, there's literally embedded tentacles of Masonic Lodge and, the red book, blue book narrative. So continue on here. So we had Kyle Reese looking for Sarah, and he's in like some kind of construction site yard. He steals a car and all this stuff, and he's trying to find her because he knows that everything's at stake, right? And like I was talking about earlier, Sarah finds out that there's killings, but whenever he's at this yard. It's like a stockyard or something, a port. He's doing something. There's cranes everywhere, and he has this vision and dream. He's hearing the sound. It's like resonating with him with his past and traumatizing him, right? Well, it's interesting. He's a reoccurring dream coming to him, and Kyle Reese has a dream of his past. It was interesting that these drones in the movie of the future in 2029, mind you, I thought that was kind of interesting that the dates were coming up on it here. It's 2024 for everybody, so here we are. So this movie takes place, when his timeline is 2029. And look what we are dealing with here today in the skies. And there's a lot of things going on in New Jersey, New York, China. I'm hearing all kinds of different things going on in our skies. And as you can see on the picture on the screen here, this is not New Jersey. This is not nothing to do with anything modern or up to date or anything like that. This is from the Terminator movie. And I thought it was interesting that there's those red and blue lights, which, you see all throughout other, witnesses and everything when it comes to military technology or any kind of aviation or something. There's people saying, I've seen drones, I see alien crafts, etc., that's in the skies. I'm seeing red and blues, and people are saying this now, David, in New Jersey, and they're saying there's these, bigger than a car, bigger than a truck. I've heard all kinds of different perspectives. People have filmed it, looked at it. They're even saying a couple of the drones have failed from the sky, and it reminded me of this movie tonight that we're decoding and depicting. And David, what do you say, David? Because is the machines taking over? Is that what the alien force is, the drones? What's going on, David?
Well, and I think this is what was seen over Mr. Trump's golf course, was it not?
That's correct.
So, what they're depicting here, this is something that, like you say, people right now are talking about seeing this very thing right now.
Coincidence? I don't know. Maybe Skynet has been activated. Who knows? A lot of people laugh at me, but that is truly a thing. There is a Skynet technological military application of some sort. I think it's China that has it. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that there is an application at that level out there. So anyways, Sarah Connor decides to just kind of blow all this off for a while, and she goes and finds her friend. Forgive me, the character has slipped my mind what her name is, but her friend makes a comment here. They're getting prepared for a date. David, they're getting prepared for some guy they never even show, and I think they're at Sarah Connor's residence. So she makes a comment. Her friend says, "We look too good." She's flaunting herself, right? They're saying, makes a comment here about they look too good for mortal men. I thought it was interesting. You see what I'm saying? That correlation with the Genesis 6, it's going back again. They're boasting about it. They're like, look at us, look at our makeup. The fallen angels taught, in the book of Enoch, they taught women makeup, right? To be glamorous, right? And in this whole mirror thing, and they're looking at each other and they're admiring each other and say, hey, we're better looking for, more, even for the angels is what it might be alluding to, right?
But not too good for the man from the sky.
You see what I'm saying, David? So I couldn't help that correlation there, how strange that was. So on the next one, Sarah finds out after, she's talking to her that the gentleman had to cancel her date. So she leaves and she wants to go get something to eat. And her friend has a boyfriend that stays at their residence. So Sarah is finding out that there's another woman. So the victim or whatever, she finds out that somebody is Sarah Connor. There's another Sarah Connor that's going to lose her life because there's this wild serial killer on the crazy town. Right? It's crazy. So she tries to call her friend because she knows her friend and her boyfriend are at a residence. So she starts making a correlation, a connection, David, that she could be in imminent danger, like death is coming at her door, and she starts to prepare herself because she doesn't know how to react to. Is there a cold-blooded killer on the way? Is there something going on? Is somebody going to come and take my life? And et cetera, right? So my point is, what is she thinking? And so she knows that there's this correlation. So here's where I'm at. So the Terminator goes to her residence, Sarah can't get a hold of her friend. So on this film, I had to cut a lot out because we have so much to unpack tonight. The man has red socks on. During the film, the girl's wearing a purple robe, and she's playing a song on her radio, and her headphones are saying intimacy. It's playing this song about intimacy. So the Terminator comes, takes everybody out, and she thinks she gets the right Sarah Connor. Because he doesn't have an image of her. He doesn't even know what she looks like at this time. And I think it's interesting that there was so much this so-called futuristic stance. You would think that these androids and robots would have all the data, and I thought that was something to back up, to kind of put out there what was going on. Is this stuff? Did they not have the data on them? It's just interesting to me. So as we go on, real quick, I'm having so many tech issues. Forgive me, folks. So I want to emphasize again on this scene, Brother David. He takes 6 shots. He kills Sarah Connor's friend. Takes 6 shots when he starts shooting her friend. 6 shots again. It's 6. There's that 6 connection again. Well, as you can see Arnold there, he's looking back because there's an answer machine. The answer machine, she's literally frantically trying to get a hold of her friend. And when she does, there's the answer machine. So then he knows that she is at this bar, that she's waiting to try to get some answers, to get the police. Something's going on. She knows something's really bad wrong in the camp here. So as we move on here, the T-800, the Terminator's trying to find info out. He's trying to collect as much data. He's trying to go through the drawers, countertops, whatever. He finds this red book, David. He finds this red book with all these addresses and this information on it, and he finds her ID. But what's up with this red book, right? So, I kid you not, David, everybody out here watching this, I had to go back and literally do my due diligence to make sure that this was done properly, because I had to make sure the time lapse on the movie was perfect. I had the full-blown copy. I didn't alter it. I didn't cut or splice anything down. And when he takes this book and he reads it and gets Sarah's ID and gets the imagery, he drops the book, David, down. But as soon as he does it, it's at 33. Like the time lapse on the film, it's 33, puts the book down, it's 33 minutes. And I thought that was just so interesting because there's that 33 degree. There's that Masonic connection. Why? The red book, and what's going on here, David? Go ahead. David. You can't hear me. So Brother David's disconnected again, so that's okay, folks. So everybody here watching this program, we're having so many tech issues. I don't understand why we are, but we are. And so I'll just continue on. So we have this red book. I really want David's take on this. I really do. And I hope the audio is good. Let me triple check everything, everybody. I hope everybody can hear me. I'm sorry for that. It's kind of making me offset with my presentation a little bit, trying to keep everything flowing. So forgive me so much that we're having so many tech issues. But I'm gonna wait for David because I really want David to really focus on this red book and talk about the red book and the blue book with the Masonic Lodge, because I know David is well versed on this topic. And forgive me for the tech issues. It's out of my hands at this point. So let's just
Brian,
wait.
I am back.
Okay.
I got kicked out again, so I'm back.
So Brother David's back. So David, real quick, could you let the audience know what your take is on the red book and the blue book, and talk about the Scottish Rite, the York Rite? Could you comment on? It's interesting that the Terminator is looking at the red book and then he finds this information in 33 minutes. Because when I found out that it was a 33-minute time lapse on the film whenever he drops the book, there's that 33-degree connection with the Masonic connection again. And what do you say, David? What would you say in that? Why is this even in the film?
Well, the number 33 is very significant in Freemasonry. After you go through, there's 3 degrees in what's called the Blue Lodge. the entered apprentice, the fellow craft, and the master mason. And after that, the mason has various higher degrees, which are all Jesuit controlled, that he can go into. And when you go into the Scottish Rite, there are 33 degrees in the Scottish Rite. Now, in the structure of that, the 33 degrees of Freemasonry, they relate to the 31 Nephilim kings that Joshua drove out when he entered the land of Canaan. It's right there in Scripture that there were 31 kings on the west side of the Jordan, and on the east side of the Jordan, there were the two Nephilim kings, Og, the king of Bashan, and Sihon, the king of the Amorites. Also, in the Secret Teachings of All Ages, Manly P. Hall relates the number 33 to the 33 vertebrae on the spinal cord, where the Kundalini spirit fire is raised up the base of the spine to where it hits the pineal gland and causes this luciferic illumination. And this is something that's done through Kundalini yoga. It's done through drugs and occult meditation and occult practices of various kinds. And here again, we have the concept of going through portals, initiation, illumination, and the numerology and all of the color schemes. They're all teaching a consistent message of occult illumination, entering the portals. And it's all draped around the entire Genesis 6 scenario and wrapped up in a neat little package with a bow on it.
A bow on it is agreed on that. I agree with that bow. So David, it's interesting that Sarah Connor is like at the bar. She's calling. She finally gets a hold of somebody. The cops are trying to get a hold of her. There's all kinds of mayhem and insanity going on. There's all kinds of news and everything that they're trying to listen to, and they can't get a hold of Sarah Connor because she's at the bar. They keep calling the residents. There's no answer. And I wanted to point this out. So there's a scene where the main two cops are on here. And I said, look at the 6'4". And you can't make this stuff up. So there's a 4 and a 6. And yes, I know it's the office numbers, but it's interesting they focus on it and kind of pause on this scene the way the focal point of this footage is. And in Freemasonry, the number 64 generally doesn't hold a specific widely recognized symbol meaning. But however, it can be interpreted as a representation of solid foundation or completeness due to its connection to the number 4, which symbolizes the 4 cardinal directions, raised to the power of 3, representing the 3 dimensions. So you have 4 to the power of 3, so it equals 64. So David, I want to make this very clear. We're going to go down the conspiracy rabbit hole. But this solid foundation or completeness, we're going to be talking about that more in the program. But this 4 cardinal directions wasn't that back there at the Octagon? Wasn't that back there at the Griffith Observatory, David? With the 4, with the directions of the cardinal directions. And I want to throw this in here too. When I made the connection, because you're like, well, where do you get the 3 at? So I thought about 64. But then I thought about also, because it says representing the 3 dimensions, well, I also want to take this to another level further. Guess how many Sarahs are in the program? There's 3 Sarahs. And I was thinking to myself, 64 and this imagery, this referencing to completeness and foundation with the Freemasonry side of it. But David, what do you say about this? Because it's very profound when you really sit back and just focus on it, because we're sitting here doing a decoding. We're having so many tech issues. Skynet might be deployed right now and taking over our computers, folks. That's what's going on. David's had to be disconnected. I'm getting disconnected, but we're still on here. Welcome, everybody, to the FOJC, folks. We're getting disconnected. Skynet, the drones might be over my house. Me and David might get abducted any moment, but they'll spit us back out. They'll spit us back out because they don't want us. They don't want us no more. But go ahead, Dave. What do you say about this?
Well, in Freemasonry, in the Bible, it says that the stone that the builders rejected, the same has become the head of the corner. And one of the most famous books in Freemasonry is The Builders by Joseph Fort Newton. And this is the one of the names of the Freemasons, the Builders. And in Freemasonry, you have in the Blue Lodge the symbolism of the rough ashlar. And the rough ashlar represents the Masonic initiate that coming into Freemasonry has to be smoothed out and formed until he becomes the perfect ashlar, which represents the initiated and illuminated Freemason. So, once again, these foundations are not coincidental. And in Freemasonry, the laying of the foundation stone, they will even tell you that in the original beginning of this tradition, that there was a human sacrifice, and that a human sacrifice would be buried there underneath the foundation stone. And in Catholicism, the basilica is all of these altars have to have the relic of some saint in it. So this symbolism of connecting the worship and the temple, the Masonic temple or the basilica with the dead is not a good thing. You know, the worship of the dead and the necromancy and the practice of the Canaanites is outlined in the 18th chapter of Deuteronomy. These are things to be avoided, not emulated.
I agree, David. And for everybody, that I hope you're not going to sleep, because the last hour we've had some tech issues. Like I said, I can only apologize so many times, but I probably will another 10 times. Thank you all for staying with us here. We just had some tech. I'm having some issues, but I think, David, are you still clear on the audio? Because we're going to get into
Yeah, I have twice. I've had to sign back in twice here, but yeah, I'm here for now. And if I go out, I'll just sign back in.
Okay.
So here we go.
Well, we'll hang in there. I know everybody. It's been kind of going back and forth, and it's disrupting the presentation. So forgive me. So this is where it gets really interesting. So when they're trying to get a hold of Sarah Connor, the Terminator walks into the bar. So it's interesting when you think about it, the tech noir. So the cyber noir, future noir, and science fiction noir is a hybrid. It's a hybrid genre of fiction, right? There's all these movies, Ridley Scott's Blade Runner, 1982. You know, we also have, you know, on the screen here, Terminator, etc. And it's technology that's disrupt. I can't even speak tonight. So the technology as disruptive and dystopian force that threatens every aspect of our reality. So whenever you're thinking about the merging of transhumanism, this destructive dystopian force, and you're looking at this bar that Sarah's walking around because she's in fear, because she knows Sarah Connors are all dying, and she's the last one. It's going down. Like, she knows in her mind that she's the last on the list. She can't get a hold of her friends, nothing. So, David, did you know in the background of this film, while the Terminator's there, and Kyle Reese shows up in there, he's observing her, he's kind of waiting around, he's watching, right? So there's that connection with the watchers. So, David, there's music in the background playing. The music in the background is playing, and did you know what it's called? Have you heard the lyrics? It's Burning in the Third Degree. That's what you can't. It goes burning in the third degree. So
oh my goodness!
So there's that connection, burning in the third degree, and it's playing just all it's really loud. It's so apparent that they're putting out a message. What do you say, David?
Now, in that slide just before that, there it said Tech Nora. Is that right?
Yeah, Tech Nora. Yeah,
Tech Nora, and wow. You know, we were talking last night on the Midnight Ride, and John said it was because of your prompting that he looked into Elon Musk's grandfather, who spoke of the technocrat agenda, where it was believed that, you know, basically that the world is to be ruled by people that are the experts in technology, you know, and tech noir. There's a genre in movies called the noir movies, and these were the murder mysteries, and they always involved some femme fatale, that was the evil woman, the bad woman in these. So there's just so much there. My goodness, yeah, Technor. And then we go to burning in the third degree. Okay, yeah, that third degree. And here again, it speaks to the Masonic initiation, where the third degree you're initiated and raised as a master mason, and there's that burning, that enlightenment, that fire. Um, so wow, it's just all there. Yeah, that's amazing. That Technor.
Yeah, that one got me. So continue on. The T-800 starts showing himself. He starts going into its mayhem, its destructive, nonsense, going to the bar. He starts shooting everybody, taking out everybody. We have Reese, Kyle Reese taking the moment to save Sarah Connor from complete, getting decimated. And it goes on a big old, it's like a war fight, right? Everything's going crazy. They get in the car. They have to go somewhere. And they'll go to this car garage. They're actually running out and forth out of there, and he's just blasting the place, right? So it's interesting as he comes to a stop, David. He comes to a stop, and he's speaking to Sarah, and she's in like complete shock. Okay, she's traumatized. She don't know what's going on. She's like, "There's some crazy man saying he's from the future." He's trying to explain to her that she can't get out of the car. It's for her own good. So Kyle Reese tells Sarah the importance of her unborn son, and John Connor makes him out to be like a god man, right? Like a godlike man, the way he speaks of him, right? And I thought it was interesting. There's that, abbreviations with JC, right? Jesus Christ. It's blasphemy, right? They could have called him any name in the world, but they decided to call him John Connor, and he's speaking on her like she's the goddess, like Sarah Connor is this goddess that he needs to protect from this fallen power, right? This technology that's going to come and devour her. And there you go. Once again, hence we have this fallen angel narrative, and he's warning her that your unborn son it has to come through you, and you're going to be he's going to be the savior for mankind to fight against these machines, David. Isn't that just insane? I think it's just the Jesus Christ is blasphemy thing. That really got me with the JC. What do you think, David?
Yeah, it is just another one of them little things. And, I think it's quite possible. And I think we're going to have a disclosure where the fallen ones are going to show up in a visible form. I think this is very scriptural. We've talked about that oodles of times. And I believe that perhaps the lie that they might tell is that they have come from the future and they have come back. And if they can present themselves as the Time Lords, people would be so intimidated and so fearful of these people. I don't believe their time travel is a possibility. I do not believe it is. We talked about this during the Philadelphia experiment, but there are places, in the scripture, it says when Christ returns, that there will be time no more. Where God dwells is a place beyond time, in a place called eternity. And I think that there are places in the dark realm where people on the dark side are able to go where time does not affect them like it does on earth, and they can appear. It's kind of like a pseudo time travel. But this could very well be the lie the fallen ones tell people when they do show up. They could claim to be the Time Lords.
I agree. So after this scene, there's like this firefight, David. There's a firefight with the T-800, the police get involved, and it's just chaos. There's these parking garages. They switch out cars, and at the end of the car chase, the T-800 disappears, and Kyle Reese and Sarah get apprehended by the police and go to jail. Kyle Reese goes to jail. It's just sheriff's department or whatever, the police department. But when that's all going on, I wanted to throw this out here because this is one that really got me too, Brother David. So the T-800's, he's hurt, right? He's been shot in the head with a 12-gauge shotgun. It's chaos, right? His body, but he doesn't feel any pain, but he's got this organic skin around him, right? So he's having to repair himself the first time, and this one got me. He's taking these pliers and he's trying to fix the tendons in the metal gears, and it's for just a second, David. It shows symbolism of literally throwing up sixes. It sticks his finger up, he throws up the three. It's three sixes, 666, and there it is. And this is from the robot, and you can tell whoever took the footage, the videographer, they slow in, and it's just there for slipping in that subliminal messaging, David. And the gears are just there's a three sixes. What do you? I mean, David, this is the T-800. This is supposed to be Terminator, not nothing to do with demonic possession. I mean, David, what's going on here? It's insane.
Well, these 666s are embedded in gobs of movies. There was a fella I know, he's a friend of mine, James Lloyd, did a video called Hidden Sixes, and he took gaggles of movies and showed over and over. He did about 3 videos in this series showing hidden sixes in the movies. And they're embedded in there. And, you know, we've seen the 6 shots, and we see here the the six there, and there's probably some we're missing. These are subliminally embedded all through this movie and all through a lot of other movies. And this is nothing but predictive programming, subliminal messages, and everything from even the shutter speed of the film. They don't call them television programs for nothing. These are all things that we have to be aware of. And it's just amazing the way these hidden embedded sixes just keep popping up over and over and over.
But wait, there's more. So this one took me a long time to capture the. It's not even a microsecond, David. And these glasses, he has these glasses because what happens, I had to cut that out too of this presentation because he takes out his left eye, David, the silicone and all the organic material because his eye's damaged, right? He digs it all out and it falls into the drain. There's water, blood. The significance of it, it keeps showing him the continuing action of blood and then taking off the lens and the eyeball and gouging it out of his skull. And it's that left eye, right? And he drops it into the water. And what's so insane, so the glasses, the brand of the name of the glasses, you can't make this stuff up. You can barely see it here. I'm going to zoom in because it's a millisecond it flashes. It says gargoyles on the glasses, David. The iconic black glasses of the T-800 are gargoyle glasses. So if you look into Scottish Rite Freemasonry and you look at it talks about the temple has double-headed eagle sculptures on its roof. But they are not gargoyles. But these sculptures are called, I can't pronounce it to save my life, archivoltura something, which are decorative archaeological ornaments that sit on a flat base at the outer angles of the buildings. It's on the building. Gargoyles are they're called grotesques. Grotesques, which are mythical or strange creatures used in architecture. And they always have water spout or drain pipe. And I thought that was strange, David, because the film shows the blood going into the drain at the sink. You know what I mean? It was just kept going back and forth. It was repetitive. And when I finally got the frame to hone in and show that it says gargoyles, I didn't know what else to say, David. This is the glasses he's wearing. What do you say about that, David? This ain't They Live. This is the T-800. What's he got to have gargoyle glasses on for? You know?
Yeah. I don't know. It's very interesting, and it's interesting in Zechariah, the 11th chapter and the 17th verse, when it speaks about the idol shepherd, and there it says that his sword will be upon his eye, and that his eye will be utterly darkened. And there in the scripture, it's his right eye, and I believe it's the left eye in the movie here that's taken out. Isn't that right?
I thought it was the left one, but I might be mistaken, David. I might be mistaken. Yeah, I thought it was.
Anyway, that's still what that reminds me of. is that prophecy. So I don't know it's just everything here has interesting implications to it.
Well, it's going to get really interesting. We still haven't touched the surface yet, so we've got a lot more to uncover here and unpack. So remember the green octagon, and remember whenever they had this battle, this fight. So after all this comes on, this chaos and the gargoyle glasses, the Terminator goes on another rampage. He goes and destroys the police station. He finds out that she's there. The cops said it's going to be okay, but it's not going to be okay. They're putting Kyle Reese in a straitjacket. He's insane. He's went off, and that's not the case, right? So all this insanity happens. I had to cut all that out because of all the blood and gore and just I just don't want to show because I'm trying to protect the channel. But guess where they find safe haven, David, after all this stuff? They finally get a car. They drive away from the police station. It's a little hatchback. They randomly lose fuel, and they drive as far away as they can get from the Terminator. Guess where they end up at? They end up somewhere underneath this. It's a tunnel, okay? And Kyle Reese, they have this conversation during this whole set down, and they're in this. It's really cold. He's trying to keep Sarah warm, and Kyle Reese makes a statement. It's like being born again, going through time, because she's asking him, what's it like going through time? And isn't that interesting that he says it kind of the way he pauses and says it, it's like being born again. I think that's strange to me. And then
If you remember back, you were talking about where it saw the Arnold in the fetal position after he come through time, which is symbolic of birth from the fetus. And there is that reoccurring motif that these portals they're going through are symbolic of rebirth, and to them is rebirth and enlightenment.
Yeah, I agree, David. But remember, they're in a tunnel, everybody. Remember we talked about that at the beginning with the Mount Hollywood tunnel with the Griffith Observatory. So she goes on, Sarah finds out that Kyle has been shot and says Jesus right after talking about time travel. She's like, Jesus! I kid you not, David. She goes, Jesus! She finds out, and she's literally wanting to bandage his wounds. And Kyle Reese was talking about John Connor and Sarah and describing him, and said to Sarah he would die for John Connor because he was so adamant about protecting John Connor. And he goes on. Sarah asks about the father, who the father was, and Kyle doesn't know who the father is, but the events led up to him being John Connor's father. It's kind of interesting. At the time, this Sarah Connor does not know that he will be John Connor's father in the future. Well, in a few hours, according to this film. So Sarah asks Kyle to tell her about where he is from the future, like where did he come from. Mind you, they're talking under a shelter in a small tunnel, and there's a mistype there, in quotations, tunnel vision. So just think about this for a minute. He's in a tunnel, and they're having this conversation piece, David, and it goes on. So Kyle Reese tells Sarah about the future, how they combat Terminators. So he continues on with his conversation, and I thought about this, David, because Kyle Reese in 2029, all the people are having to hide themselves in the dens, right? And I thought about the biblical narrative, and thought about the Revelation 6 verse 15, and the kings of the earth and the great men and the rich men and the chief captains and the mighty men and every bondman and every free man hide themselves in the dens and in the rocks of the mountains. And it was just interesting to me because there was all this famine, all kinds of people in fear. And at the time, Sarah starts to fall asleep, and when she's hearing him talk about his adventures and where he came from, and during this dream that she has, Kyle Reese in 2029 falls asleep in Sarah's dream, and he's looking at her picture focusing on her, and then all of a sudden, and here's where it gets really interesting, there are two dogs watching the stronghold to detect Terminators. And in his dream, the dogs detect the difference between a human and a machine. So they can sense, I guess they can sense the machine components and tell in this dream, supposedly, what's really going on and how do they, can combat this with these canines, right? These dogs. So let's, fast forward here and back to the cave, the actual tunnel system of reality. But Sarah wakes up and tells her the dream to Kyle, and he confirms that the dogs are used to detect the Terminators. So you might ask, what's the point, right? Like, what's the point, Brian? What are you talking about? I want to make this very clear. This is a conspiracy show, and I know that some of this stuff might come way out there down the rabbit hole, like me and Brother David alluded to. But just think about this for a minute and give me a moment to just chew on this for a minute. So here they are together. In 1984, they are together. But in 2029, in theory, they are together. And then you talk about, the dream stasis and, sleep paralysis. And David, I know this could go down the rabbit hole, quantum entanglement. And I'm not saying I believe any of this stuff, but when it comes to portraying it on the film here, they're technically underground in both events and timelines. So it's really interesting. There's 1984 to 2029. You have a 45-year gap. And I thought that was interesting because remember, even though there's a 45-year-old gap in the timeline, Kyle fell asleep and Sarah fell asleep, and you guessed it, in the tunnels underground, it's a tunnel vision. Like they're having a vision. They're having dreams and visions, right? The tunnels. And I thought about the scripture, David, in Joel 2:28, and it shall come to pass afterward that I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh, and your sons and daughters shall prophesy. Your old men shall dream dreams, your young men shall see visions. So think about that, David. I mean, just this tunnel narrative. So real quick, and I'll give you the floor on this because I really want I want your comments on this. But I don't get into numerology, everybody. I don't get into gematria, but I wanted, for the sake of this video and for the content for this, the numerology of 45 and the meaning and the significance. The number 45, it's the ability to research deeply and communicate. Innovation, right? It is a number of leadership and oriented as calm under stress because he's trying to calm her down. I thought it was interesting. There's all these emotions going back and forth. It builds a strong foundation for the future and interested in new technology and all that and above. So it's interesting, David, that they're having these visions and dreams and they're having these conversation pieces in this tunnel. And David, what do you have to say about that? Because I thought this was so profound, especially I never caught it before until I went back and reviewed the film with a new pair of lenses. What do you say, David?
Well, the dark world promises occult illumination, and you can see on all of the genuine gifts of the Spirit, you can see every one of them mocked and imitated in the dark realm. And this is, Christianity is a spiritual religion. We are promised the spirit of wisdom and revelation. If you just begin in the book of Luke and you mark every time an angel appears or says something, your Bible's going to be all marked up. And the true revelation of the spirit world will come to us through the Holy Spirit and through Scripture. But there is a dark realm. And that dark realm is giving people dark spiritual experiences. And just because someone has a spiritual experience, and we can't doubt for a minute that people in the New Age and the cult, they're definitely having spiritual experiences. The problem is that they're coming from the dark realm. And here is another picture of and a glorification of the concept of spiritual revelation through the dark side.
Well, David, it gets even more deeper on this next slide. So they are going to go on their transition out of the tunnel because they got their rest. They talked about it and they shared all these dreams, visions, and information. So you look here, both Sarah and Kyle are walking out of the tunnel together, hence walking out of the gate or a portal like we've been alluded to during the whole program, where they shared information. They would, that would tie themselves together forever. Strange and bizarre, isn't it? That's what I wrote down here. I thought it was really strange. But I want to bring this up. When the hatchback that I didn't show what they drove from the police station, it had supplies in the back, right? It had the tourniquets and whatever, medical kits and a thermos, and you're going to see here in a second. But this one got me because I started looking into it and I started thinking about it, and I've got the wrong slide up, but that's okay. But there's tree symbolism, and I wonder why is what I said here. When they come out of the tunnel system, they walk out this way. They walk out to their left. And when they walk out, there's just trees down everywhere. And it's almost like I had the thought in my mind, David, the Cave of Treasures with Adam and Eve. You got a man and a woman coming through the way of enlightenment. They're going on their journey together. They come out of the tunnel. They got their information. They survived the night or whatever. And I want to bring this up, and this is not a good picture right now, and forgive me because I lost the other slide. But there's what Sarah's carrying here is a blue box. And I know it's a really bad view, everybody, but she has a thermos also, so you can go back up and fact check me all you want. It's on there. Forgive me, I don't have it up there, but I said the blue box. Why is she carrying the blue box out for? I was thinking, well, okay, it might just be a thing, and then I thought about, here we are talking about the mysterious conspiracy theater, right? So why not go down the conspiracy rabbit hole? Is it, what's the significance of a blue box, right? So when you look into astronauts, all this stuff, they always carry these life bags and stuff like that, right? So this particular one on the screen here, it has a blue box. And yes, I get it. It says the blue box and the astronauts often carry a typical referred to as a personal preference kit, a PPK, which is a small container used to hold personal items astronauts choose to bring in with them into space, like photos, memorabilia, or small comforts from home, usually in a blue color. Well, it's interesting. Little does Sarah know that he's carrying a picture of her from memorabilia kind of concept, that there's a picture that he has in his coat pocket of Sarah, right? And we're going to talk about that here in a little bit. But it's interesting. She doesn't have any belongings. She didn't get it from the police station. It's out of the car. And I thought it was interesting that they're ascending out of the tunnel. It's a portal. It's the same concept. Here we are. You got these astronauts with these blue bags and, certain other bags that look like they call them their life bags. It's it's just insanity. What do you say, David, about this? Because I know you're probably like, people out there probably like, Brian, you're reaching. Well, it's interesting. It's a blue box. Why couldn't it be any other different? I've seen medical kits with different colors. And what do you say, Brother David?
Well, there we go again. That's what I say.
There we go again. Well, enough of the astronaut, enough of that. So as they go on their, their trip and their adventure, they're trying to get away from the Terminator, right? So all this chaos is happening and everything, and the Terminator, they already had their run around with him again, okay, after that first time whenever he's throwing the fingers up and all that. So with this next slide, this is where it's going to get kind of interesting and chilling because it goes along with our UFOs were real when we did our program not too long ago, a couple Sundays nights back, when we talked about all these Roswell and these different accounts with alien activity and UFO disclosure, so to speak, back in the day. So as you see on the screen here, see the flies in the Terminator's face. His organic material is damaged and it's starting to smell, right? So this guy's like, the man, he's like, hey, what's going on in there? Hey, buddy, you got a dead cat in there or what, right? And the Terminator's like, processing the English language and says something really bad back to him, right? And but my point is here, when I started thinking about it, the first thing that lit up in my mind, David, and we've talked about this just recently, is I wonder if this scene is referring to the dead, but not only that, did he smell like sulfur because he's an android basically, right? And I wonder if that is why this man is insinuating a dead cat, making you wonder about the gray aliens accounts and the UFOs, etc., right? So I thought about it, and I was like, so wonder if this janitor is looking and he smells, he's like, man, is there a dead cat in there or what, boy? I know I rented this room out to you, but man, you stink, right? And I wonder if his aroma, if his smell smells like literally sulfur. And I know we talked about that on the couple of Sunday nights ago. What do you say, David? I mean, there's a pretty
Well,
good
and
chance.
it could symbolize dead cat, symbolizing a sacrifice. And the fly, the god that was sacrificed to an Ekron was Beelzebub, the lord of the flies. And that could be why the little fly was on the forehead.
I agree, and it makes me think of the dead, right? The corpse, the Raphaim, the dead, right?
Yeah.
And see, if you think about that, he's a walking flesh suit that's starting to rot, but he can move around because his exoskeleton is not going to die, right, David? So he's going to start stinking. So his aroma, he's going around trying to hunt everybody. So there's some kind of connection there, David. I really wanted to focus on that because the first thing I thought of was the aliens and the Greys, right? And real quick, there was a slide that I forgot to bring up, but at the beginning of the first chase scene of this film, the police officer, after they crash, David, he goes, they're in a gray Ford. There's some kind of car they're describing on the dispatcher on the CB radio and saying, it's a gray Ford. It was interesting. And then here comes Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? The T-800. It's really interesting. Like I said, I had to chop a bunch of stuff out for the broadcast, but it's going to get, folks, if you're just now tuning in, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. We have had some technical difficulties today, and it's drove me up the tree and back, and here I am, and David disappeared 2 or 3 times, and here we are. So thank you all for attending with us tonight. So anyways, so this Terminator is checking out the data. He has a book, right? Remember the book? So he's got all the address. He's looking for prospects of where Sarah Connor is. So this is probably going to be the best part of the broadcast tonight, because this is where it's chilled me to the bone. I can't even imagine this. I'm gonna bring everything together, the octagon and everything. So just bear with me, folks. Mom's Cabin, Big Bear, 555-9861, 181 Spruce Lane. Well, if you go over here and look at the slide here, bears have many meanings in the occult. Communication with the supernatural. In some cultures, the bears is representative of a highly ranking deity, and a bear ceremony is the way to communicate with the supernatural world. Spruce trees. Here's many significant occult meanings when it comes to different cultures, right? Norse mythology. Norway spruce associated with, I'm not even going to try to pronounce it, Yggdrasil, the world tree, which is centered to the Norse belief system of life and death and rebirth. You got Greek mythology. The spruce tree is the sacred tree of Artemis. We're going to get to that here in a minute. The goddess of the hunt and childbirth. In the Galactic tradition, the spruce is a sacred tree of Donna. I think I'm butchering it. Forgive me. The mother goddess and to protector of all trees. And I thought it was interesting earlier when they come out of the tunnel, there's like all this trees down, right? There's like tree symbology or something. It's in your face, illustrating. It's getting you focused on what's getting ready to come down. And it's so interesting. So he takes this book, shuts it, and then here's where it gets interesting. Here we go again. There's a man in the hallway. He says the word damn. But it's interesting because I thought, like I alluded to earlier, that throughout the whole movie, the Terminator is walking down a walkway or on the hunt to go hunt, right? He's either on a vehicle or he's on this hallway, ascending down the hallway. So maybe it's metaphoric. Maybe it's a metaphoric meaning to Nimrod, right? The great hunter, like he's on a hunt. Maybe referring to a tunnel to get where the Terminator needs to go. Figuratively saying a gateway or a portal. And I had a thought, the dead, like I referred to earlier, the Raphaim, they are damned. And I thought it was interesting. This gentleman just walks out. Here's the T-800. He's like, man, bro, I'm popping. I'm loaded, man. I'm loaded down with my artillery. And he's like, man, he says the bad word, right? So he's literally looking, and the janitor says he stinks. The man comes out, he's like, man, the aroma, he's got the full artillery. This guy's on a mission, man. He's got the gargoyle glasses on. He's getting ready to take names, right? So what's interesting is Sarah and Kyle. This is where it gets crazy, folks. Sarah and Kyle, they hitch a ride because they are aimlessly walking around. And they find themselves in a Tiki Motel. And I got on the screen there, Tiki, ? So, Tiki Motel, what does Tiki mean? So, David, this is one of those mic drop moments here on FOJC. Even though we've been going through the fire during this whole program, it's kind of winded me a little bit, knocked the breath out of me, but I'm getting my second wind here an hour and a half in. Check this out, Tiki. So, on a large wooden or small green stone, image of a human figure. Repeat, a large wooden or small green stone, image of a human figure. So it gets even more bizarre. So let's go on to the dictionary and let's read what tiki means in the dictionary. Let's just go there. Let's just go there real quick, David. A wood or stone image of a Polynesian supernatural power. But here's where it gets really interesting. Sorry for all the ads. That's what happens when you get on the internet. So, Webster Dictionary, the etymology. Mara and Marcosine from Tiki, the first man or a creator of first man. Okay? So they're literally talking about what they're promoting here and what's getting ready to conspire. The first man or the creator of the first man. Etymology. But here's what's interesting. A stone, a green stone, but it gets really strange because I'm going to scroll down here. And this is what the Webster Dictionary website says on tiki. The first known use of tiki was 1777 according to this, but it literally says time traveler. The first known use. It says it, David. It says it, brother. It says the first known use of tiki was in 1777. And now, that, folks.
Is that in the Webster's?
That is in the Webster's. That is in the Webster's, brother David. That is in the Webster's. I could not believe. I was like, my mind. Yeah, there's the jaw drop right there. But it gets worse.
Okay.
So not only do we have the connection with this whole Webster time travel nonsense. Well, let's go back to the slide where it says the tiki, right? So they're getting ready to make a baby here, okay? So we have a green stone. So do you all remember at the beginning of the program, if you did, and we had the horrific issues of the technology, there's a green stone-like structure that Mr. John Austin created, an architect, a Freemason architect. But let's get more into this. Let's take a deep dive in this Tiki Motel, okay? So it means green stone image or human or make the first man or the creator of the first man. Well, according to this film, Kyle Reese, he's getting ready to make the man, the creator. Like he's going to be the god that takes on the Terminators, John Connor. You see what I'm saying? So there's the weirdness about this whole thing, how it's playing out. So as they walk up to the booth, there's this random dog. So as you can see on the screen here, the first thing he skips, Kyle Reese is oblivious. He's not even focused on anything else. He don't even care about nothing else going on. He's focused on the dog because he knows how to train dogs. He loves dogs because he's learned how to be in the battlefield and combat the Terminator with the dogs. So there's a random dog sitting here, and there's a clerk behind this box, this glass. Well, here's the weird part, David. When you look at the sun, the way it reflects here, it almost has a green emerald tint to the glass, right? And I know, you're probably like, well, Brian, you're probably reaching. Well, no, it gets a little worse. It gets a little strange, a little bit more bizarre. So here's where it goes. So the dog star, we talked about this on the Back to the Future Decoded program, and this one just really got me. So we have this dog that's a protector. He's a watcher, right? And this dog is, Sirius, the nickname, the dog star, because it's part of the constellation Canis Major, Latin for the greater dog. So here's where it gets really entertaining, really crazy. The expression dog days refers to the period from July the 3rd through August. Now, mind you, you're probably like, well, Brian, what are you trying to get at? Just read what I just said. The expression dog days refers to the period from July 3rd through August. Well, does anybody know that when those days happen, those particular days, the Terminator Judgment Day, the second one in the series, the release date was July the 3rd, 1991. The release date was July the 3rd, 1991. And then the movie was plotted, and Judgment Day was August the 29th, 1997. So did James Cameron playing with the constellations, folks? Come on, James Cameron, you out there playing with the constellations, bro? You playing with the Dog Star? Come on now, David. That's where the jaw drops, right? It's so these synchronicities make this can't be coincidental. Cannot be coincidental. So if you're looking at the Dog Star, that dog is sitting there to buy because they're getting their room, right? And they want a kitchen. He makes it very he emphasizes on there, I want a kitchen, right? So check out the green glass. Like I said, I zoomed in here. I wanted to really focus on it, people, because there's this. It looks like green glass the way the angle is, and the sun and everything, the lighting and everything. I know it's getting later in the day, but that one, everybody got me. Okay. So that one got me. So it gets even more bizarre. And so guess what happens? They have a hotel, right? And I cut a lot of pictures and footage out because there's a lot of just, I don't want to bring it up to the program. So Kyle Reese goes and said, hey, get settled in, take a shower, chill out. I'm going to go get some supplies, right? David, he comes back with all these bags full of stuff because he's got a sack full of money. He's got a pile full of money. Literally, I think he had a ton of money when he was trying to give the money to her to pay for the room. So here's where it gets interesting. Mothballs. The first thing, the bags rip open. He's building weaponry for the T-800. Mothballs flops out. There's the moth. And the first thing I thought of, I said, I got to get a screenshot of this because it kind of slows down. And they're like, oh, and he's just ripping. But they focused on the mothballs. So yes, you'll think, well, Brian, this is on a sexual nature. Absolutely. So fertility, moths are pollinators, similar to bees and butterflies, and can symbolize fertility, financial growth, or career growth. And boom, there it is. They're getting ready to conceive. They're getting ready to make John Connor here any moment. They're going to make some weapons to help with the T-800. But boom, there's some mothballs. And yes, I think they're kind of doing a low shot below the belt. They're derogatory and talking about the genitalia of a man. Well, yeah, because the obelisk and all that at the beginning of this broadcast, there's some really weird, strange anomalies in this film, and I never picked it up before. And it gets even worse. It gets even worse. So, David, what do you think about this scene where the bags are ripping? He's gonna make something. I got to watch what I say on here. He's making something to combat the Terminator. But then he's going to make a baby that's going to be the one that's going to lead the resistance in the future. And this is building up. What do you say about this, Dave? This is insane.
Well, and you see the JC John Connor and who's this child's father? They don't know the father, almost an allusion to a counterfeit virgin birth. And James Cameron, that produced this film, we would have every reason to suspect that he would put forth a counterfeit savior narrative and a counterfeit spirituality. James Cameron spent millions of dollars trying to prove there was a body in a tomb found in Jerusalem several years ago, and he spent millions of dollars trying to prove that this was the body of Jesus Christ, to prove that Jesus didn't resurrect from the dead. And he was going to do a documentary, and I don't think he ever put it out because he couldn't make the old dog hunt. But there's every reason here for us to believe that there is a counterfeit savior and a counterfeit spirituality being put forth here.
I would 100% agree with that statement. Absolutely.
And also, it's interesting. Someone in the chat made mention that, Keanu Reeves of the Matrix fame, and there we got the red pill, the blue pill motif there, the red and the blue, and that he has a band, and the name of his band is called Dog Star.
and I almost incorporated it. So whoever out there that's in the chat, you're a very intelligent person, and I almost put that in the program. So big shout out to you. I don't know your name, but I almost put that incorporated in the program. But I didn't want to put down on Keanu Reeves. I didn't want to put him down. So yeah, I don't have anything to say about. I don't have anything bad to say about Keanu Reeves, really. Yeah, I seen that, David. It's a dog star for sure, and that's a modern too. That's up to date. That's recent. That's what's so strange. Yeah. So as we go on here, not only are they're getting ready to conceive and make a baby. We have the T800 on the way, and he's driving a red motorcycle. And I said to myself, blood. Like he's out for blood. Obviously in a cult meeting, red blood can symbolize death, anger, aggression, and a sense of and however blood can also symbolize loyalty and love. Well, here you go. You have this, they're getting ready to make John Connor, and it gets even more bizarre what we're going to talk about here in a second. So there you have the T800's on his way. He's found the address. He's getting ready. He's going to go to the Tiki Motel. He's going to, what I'm saying? He's getting ready to make it happen. So as we continue on, this scene in the Tiki Motel, it gets really crazy. Kyle Reese is showing Sarah how to make a weapon, and let me emphasize this. I had to say weapon because I was going to say pipe, something else, but I didn't know if I could get away with it here on YouTube. Okay, so I'm respecting the channel. So I just use weapon. So you'll see what I'm talking about. I'm going to show you in a second. So how to make a weapon to fight against the Terminator. But it's interesting enough that Kyle emphasizes that he needs to make 6 more. There's that number again, David, 6. So he shows Sarah how to make 1, but then he walks away and he goes, I need 6 more made. We got to have 6 more. It's not enough. I need 7. So wait, it gets even more in.
That's our third sequence of 6 we've talked about so far this evening, isn't it?
Agreed. The next one. So remember the weapons that they made, right? And if you notice in the back, if you can see that green imagery, there's something in the background. We're going to talk about that here in a second. But these weapons that they're made, there's 7 of them that are displaced here. Sarah was shown how to make the first one, and I just said it, and they're equaling 7. But check out the green bag in the background. So here we go again. We talked about earlier the 64. Here we are. In the Bible, the number 7 is a significant symbolic number that represents perfection, completeness, and holiness, right? Well, guess what? The 6-4, you remember when we talked about earlier with the Masonic Lodge, the Masonry, Freemasonry, completeness, right? So here we are with number 7, and a lot of our viewers understand this. The 7 days creation, Genesis 1, the Sabbath, which is practiced every 7th day, the holiness, 7-fold Spirit of God in Revelation 1:4, judgment, the 7 bowls of the Great Tribulation, the Messiah, the 7 qualities of the Messiah, Isaiah 11:20 or 11:2, and then the 7 signs of John's Gospel. Well, here's where it gets really crazy. Just not only they got the green bag in the background, because remember, green stone, the Tiki Motel, it means Tiki means green stone. Come on now. So here's the next one. So during this scene, Sarah asked Kyle if he had a special woman in his life, and insinuating that he was a virgin. Like he's literally getting embarrassed because she's like, did you have anybody in the future? And he's like, no, I never. So he's never been married or anything. He's never been intimate with a woman. And I know people are cutting jokes on the chat, but in all seriousness, this is literally either a vulgar mind or an evil intent with the mothballs and this conception, what they're getting ready to build up here for this film. And I thought it was just so it's just interesting. It's just grotesque and interesting and bizarre at the same time. So he's insulted by he's getting insulted by her, and she's like, well, setting the tone for the Tiki Motel with the narrative of covering, they're going to conceive John Connor. It's getting ready to happen, right? So as the scene, he gets up and walks away, but before we do this, she takes his hand, she takes her hand. So David, this is one of those jaw-dropping moments too. I got to find the slide because everything's been miscombobulated because this program has fought me tooth and nail, and it's pushed me out of my comfort zone. So she proceeds to go down his back and say, I'm so sorry you got all these wounds. Well, do you remember, folks, I told you to focus on the green octagon. I told you to focus on the dome, the mural and everything with Zeus. Check out what's on the back of old Kyle Reese's back right here. Check this out. Kyle Reese has a battle scar on his back. It's strange. It looks like the green octagon mural of Zeus on the floor at the Griffith Observatory. Let me zoom in a little bit more. It looks like the compass thing that we talked about earlier, David. The cardinal, we talked about this slide. Let me bring this up. So we have this.
Yeah, what I think about too, there's that, and there's the continuation of the false savior motif, like with the stripes from the flogging upon our Savior's back.
Amen. 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 I can say it a bunch, but see this symbol here that's on his back? Let me zoom in there for the folks.
Yeah.
Now watch this. I got an outline when Macaulay Culkin was over there at the back there. Let me find it real quick. So when he's at the compass, right? So check this out. Remember this? We just showed us a minute ago?
Yeah.
So I got them highlighted in yellow there. So you mean to tell me that out of all the stuff, was this just random? Is that a real scar on Kyle Reese's back in the actor's, is that a real scar? Was that just makeup? But you mean to tell me that logo or whatever, this insignia is branded on the back of his back, regardless if it's in the movie or whatever? What's the coincidence of it looking very similar to what we had back at the mural at the observatory, and this is all to do with time travel movie? What's going on here, folks? What's going on
and
here?
You see, he comes through the portal, and he gets a mark, and
Boom.
He's hunting the woman.
Boom.
That has the name and the number. That is
Amen.
Right.
You got it. You nailed it. And I know our folks are very intuitive and very intelligent, so everybody else probably got it too. So boom, David, you hit the nail on the head.
And I hope I'm not getting ahead of you here.
No, you're fine. No, you're fine. So what I'm getting at is that he's got that brand on him. And I'll show it one more time for the folks, and then we'll move on. But I want to make that connection that he's got that branding on his back. So it's a correlation of like you said, the mark of hunting, the mark of coming into finding, into planting your seed. Just think about it. He's the seed giver. He's giving the seed to have John Connor. It's so bizarre. This one really got me. So not only that, do you remember the pipes? And then Kyle Reese tells Sarah he loves her and describes the picture that he had of her, and that drove him to volunteer to come through time for her. And then he packs up the 7 weapons to put in the green bag, symbolizing of the tiki, right? The green, like he's compiling the 7, the completeness. They're getting ready to go to war. T-800's getting ready to face the fury of the Reese. You know what I mean? He's getting ready to crank out some, 7 pipes of, weaponry. And I thought that was so insane to me, David. So here he goes. Here comes the Terminator. He's on his way. He's on the way to the Tiki Motel. And then all of a sudden, there's a scene where there's a dog in the background, and the entrance that was into the entrance of the Tiki Motel alarms that there is a Terminator there because he starts barking erratically, right? So he can see, and like I said, I'm bringing up the slide again. There's the dog star. There's the Canis Major, Latin in the greater dog, right? He's sensing, he's observing, he's watching, and he's like, "Hey, we got a Terminator come up in here. I can smell that this is not a organic human being." And I will ask everybody out there in the world of the internet and everybody on the FOJC, haven't you heard some very bizarre tales for animals acting up, treating and doing things out of the ordinary? Isn't it kind of strange, everybody? I don't know. We might be in the Twilight Zone. But what I'm getting at for the sake of this movie, so there's a firefight, right? So he barges in, the Terminator barges in, and little does he know that Kyle Reese and Sarah Connor are out. They're out. So there's this guy outside this old Chevy truck, and Kyle Reese throws him out, and they all get in the vehicle. So this is what got me, David. So Arnold Schwarzenegger's on his motorcycle because he's headed to the Tiki Bar. He pulls up. He pulls out because he's going to chase the truck because Kyle Reese and Sarah Connor are proceeding down the road at 1,000 miles an hour, or probably 65, probably on a Governor from an old Chevy truck. So as they pull out of the Tiki Motel, there's this place across the street. It's called Spartan Burgers. Well, like we talked about earlier, the Artemis was a Greek goddess associated with hunting, the wilderness, wild animals, the moon, chastity, and childbirth. The Terminator left the tiki bar to hunt Kyle and Sarah, but this frame stays on the screen for a few seconds, and it says Spartan Burger. And this is deliberately related to Spartan. And I said, and then she's going to conceive childbirth. So she's on the run, but she's on the hunt because we have this other character. So there's all this correlation because it's nighttime, the moon's out. You see what I'm saying, Brother David? It's insane. How does this stuff happen on this film? When I was depicting and digging through this and doing all this research, I couldn't believe it, Brother David. What is that? What is it? Huh? This is the most...
It's a hoot. That's what it is.
It's a hoot. It's a hooty bob, right? And so what's your take on that, this Artemis with Greek goddess associated with hunting? Because she's technically hunting. It's here in a little bit because we're getting ready, coming to the end a little bit here in about... Well, we still got a lot more to go. But she's going to have to hunt the Terminator because she's being hunted. And she's got to protect her child that's going to be future. It's crazy, Brother David. I've never seen anything like it before. And when I never even seen the Spartan Burger before across the street. What is your take on this? And then we'll move on. It's insane.
And here we almost see a goddess motif being worked around Sarah Connor. The idea that she gives birth to this supernatural savior that's going to come. And, well, we don't know who her father is and all of these things. Diana, of course, which was the representation of the goddess, and now my voice is going out. But all of these things kind of are checking boxes to weave a goddess motif around Sarah Connor.
And I agree 100%. I agree 100%. So when Sarah Connor and Kyle Reese are on their last ride, so to speak, so they go to a place, they get to a tunnel, and I will mind you, it almost looks like the architect work of The Wizard of Oz. Green lights, a tunnel again, a gateway. That's what I questioned it on the slide here. I'm like, okay, so why there's these bluish green, emerald-looking lights in this tunnel? So the Terminator goes to pursue them, right? And there's mayhem in the tunnel system. It's a long, lengthy tunnel, right? Long and lengthy. And Sarah's Kyle Reese tells her, get over in the driver's seat because I got to throw some pipe, these pipes, at the Terminator, right? And he's trying to get the Terminator to divert away and basically blow up the motorcycle so we can, have some more time to get away from him. So...
And look on top of the car, Brian, how many we got? We got 6 little things on top of the car.
Yeah, that's right. We got six lights there. That's right.
Yeah.
Come on, David.
Oh, gosh.
Come on, David.
It's everywhere.
It's everywhere. This synchronization.
We have gone down the rabbit hole.
We've done.
Look at it. There they are. There's 6 of them.
Went and done it now, for sure. We have. So, motorcycle, he keeps coming. He keeps pursuing them. They come out of the tunnel, and this is when the Terminator hits Kyle Reese. That Terminator is just blasting all through that green tunnel, right? He's just blasting, right? It's ricocheting everywhere. There's ammunition going every which way. But as soon as the truck clears the tunnel, interesting how it clears it, Kyle Reese gets shot through the glass, instantly as comes through the green tunnel. Boom! So then they go on this wild chase. Sarah flips the motorcycle over. She thinks he's got it in the bag. Kyle's literally getting ready to die and bleed out everywhere. I'm not even going to tell you where the shot went through the back glass because it was so derogatory on the back sticker. Something it said, I will not even relate to it on the film here because I can't even speak upon it because I thought it was just too much to put in the film here or broadcast. But he gets shot through the glass. So he throws this other weapon, right? And so they have this big carnage. The truck's on fire. There's a semi. He gets in a semi. These good old boys are driving the semi full of oil. It's chaos, right? And they finally blow up because he's got pipe bombs in his suit, or in his Kyle Reese has got several pipe bombs left. And mind you, he only had 7, but he has like a couple left. He puts one in the back of the there's like this little reservoir circle piece where the tank is, and all of a sudden this scene, the Terminator he's not dead. Forgive me for the mistypes, but I think it's symbolism why God says he will rain fire down from heaven instead of water, because of these types of machines or technologies will or does exist. It will be destroyed because of all the evil that the Nephilim and the devil will and have done with it. And I think that's why he's going to burn it with vibrant heat, like death. Water's not going to do it. And I kept thinking, chips and all the technology, and if something like this ever was to break out and we have androids that's getting ready to break bad or whatever, or, whatever. And as you can see, she thinks he's dead. Here comes Kyle Reese, and they're proceeding on, and they go into this little factory with all these robots. Excuse me, the slide's out of sync, but that's okay. Let me recalibrate here. They go out. Kyle uses all this old tech, which is this to confuse the newer tech. And I thought that was really interesting, David, because this topic alone, he goes in there. He's like, "Hey, we're going to a diversion." He's like, "Hang on, Sarah," and he's trying to go with all these. He's manipulating all these control panels because he knows there's robotics in there, and he says, which it's what I thought was intriguing about it. He thought that they would interfere with the systems of the Terminator. So, but he's supposed to be like superior, right? I thought he was supposed to be a lot more advanced. So if all these magnetic fields and all this technological, 1984 tech can convince the 2029 T-800 to be all confused and lethargic and not be able to sense movement of humans. See, this is what I always say when you talk about quantum entanglement and quantum physics. I've heard a lot of people and physicists talk about connections with computers, and old tech can still work in a way, but you have to modify it to get it to work with the newer tech. And I can contest to that. I can actually agree with that. Every time we get something new, you always have to update it or something, right? But this scene here, he's got those robotic arms going around, flaring back and forth. And what happens, Kyle Reese uses all 7 of the weapons. In this part, you see the Terminator explode because he's got Sarah behind her. And anyways, there's another mistype, but I thought that was interesting that this was his last weapon that was used. And when he backs up, he basically blows off the lower extremities of the T-800. Well, little did they know that she thought he was dead. So Kyle Reese passes away during this scene because that last pipe, he explodes and he just loses. He's dead anyways. He's been, critically shot. He's got a critical damage, right? So when it goes on, when Sarah crawls on all fours and then there's this, all you have is a torso and the arms. It's interesting. I want to point this out to everybody and the viewers, and especially David, and let your take on it. When they're going through there's this big machine press, and that's the only way that they can take this Terminator. She gets through there. She pulls the little bracket down. It's like the jail bars, pulls it down, pushes the button, and says some very choice words. But here's that lightning again. It starts resonating out of this Terminator, and it starts to implode, right? And there's that dark lightning, that blue lightning again. And she has this arm pulling through and grabbing her and trying to strangle her, and she finally gets it to literally basically turn its switch off, right? Well, here's the interesting fact, and a lot of people know this. For the people, the fans out there with Terminator, the powers that be that run this whole program, and then 1997, the Judgment Day, that arm goes back, and she doesn't know it because she's all like in shock. Police are on their way. Sarah Connor, they're going to amputate that arm and use it for technological advancements with Skynet in the future. And little does she know that she's making a huge mistake right here. That she needs to get rid of all of it. She probably should, if it was real life, she probably could have, probably done something else with it. But the cops was already on the way. So it's interesting that happened. And just to kind of sum it up here before we move on, so Sarah goes and she leaves there. She's fast forward a little bit here, and she goes to this gas station, and there's this this little boy is speaking to her. They're all speaking in Spanish. And the little boy asks Sarah Connor to take a picture of her for $5. And ironically, it's the same picture that was passed down from John Connor to Kyle Reese. And see, little did Sarah know, because she never seen the photo that was in Kyle Reese had. Like, she never seen it. So he tells her that he had a photo, but that's the same photo. And what's so cool about it, she's sitting there doing all these recordings for John Connor, and she's telling John in the future on these recording tapes, hey, I'm telling you who your father is. So I thought it was so interesting. And little did Kyle Reese know, but because he said, I don't know the father. But John Connor did know in 2029, hey, I'm your son, but I can't tell you that, because you see what I'm saying. And then ironically, and just miraculously, Kyle Reese is the one that he volunteers because he's literally fell in love with Sarah. But little did he know that he was the father of John Connor. And John Connor's like, yeah, let's pull the plug and let's send you back in time. And I thought that was kind of interesting how that all plays with all that. And so she's going doing these recordings. And then toward the end, you can hear thunder and lightning in the background. It's all, dramatic. And the gentleman says, then the man says there's a storm coming. And then Sarah's like, I know. And then she just, Sarah drives off toward the mountains, which is very interesting to me that they got that screenshot. Thinking about to what you alluded to with the Mount Hermon and talking about, high elevation, right? And I wanted to just kind of review some things before I give the floor to you real quick, Brother David. When I go back and we looked at all the imagery and we seen all the stuff presented here, there's a lot of stuff. So there's a lot of slides. If we didn't have so much tech issues, and it's got me all tongue-tied because I'm sitting there watching our stream literally wiped off the internet here. But that's how bad it's been, folks. I've been fighting tooth and nail to keep it going. So have good kindness toward me, and hit that like button and subscribe and share this thing out if you're a first time viewer. Forgive me for stuttering and all those things, but I've been trying to fight this thing tonight. So what we want to review: the octagon, the green stone, the tunnel, and the Mount Hollywood tunnel, the connection with the Griffith Observatory, the obelisk, the resurrection of Osiris, the green stone that's up on top, the mural that's underneath, that representations of Zeus and the light bearer. And I mean, we could go down the rabbit hole of, we haven't even said that tonight, with Lucifer and, Satan himself and all these different things. The compass, the markings on the back of Kyle Reese. What is going on, and why is that tiki? Why does that say that? Why does it say in Webster Dictionary the first use of tiki was in 1776, which I have a hard time believing that, but it says the time traveler. That's what it says. And what's all these connections? And what did John C. Austin know? Did he have some preconceived knowledge? Did he have some technological advancements? Was he playing around with some Nikola Tesla technology? Did he have anything going on in that realm? We don't know. But what we do know is this movies are related to ascending, descending, portals, gates, going through to the veil, coming out of the veil, all these different correlations. The most blasphemous stuff I've ever seen in my life in a film. And just filthy nonsense, and it's gaslighting you the whole entire time. But when I found out that all this stuff was integrated into this film that I once thought was a good, decent film back in the day before I had a new pair of eyes, now I'm looking back on it, and it's literally telling you about what's going on here in 2024. And I think it's interesting that here we are in 2024, and we have 40 years since this was made. Kyle Reese makes a comment to Sarah, because Sarah's like, well, they can't make this stuff they can't make this stuff now, because he's talking about, all these different technological advancements when they first meet up with each other, and he's like, not until 40 years. So he's literally alluding to 2024. And then real quick before I forget, David, when he was in the straitjacket and they was getting ready to sign him off whenever he was in that police station, he literally is yelling at them and telling them where he's at, what platoon he's on. But you know that it tells the date. He tells the dates, Brother David. And you ready for this? He said he's been part of this platoon since 2021 all the way to 2027. And that psychiatrist mocks him. He said, wait, did you say 2027? And here's the fun fact. I didn't even have a time to plug that in tonight. Space Force in 2021 had significant gain in their organization. Had all kinds of technological advancements in 2021. I thought that was so compelling. And then the 2027 concept, the 6 years, Brother David. Come on now. And there's another six, there's a six imagery. It's all throughout this film. All the 666, blasphemy, the Holy Spirit. I mean, I'm so sorry, but John Connor can't be a savior. But according to this narrative, and I think it's interesting that the green stone and stuff, that's a real thing. The tiki stuff, that's real. Like, all this other stuff is sci-fi, just made up storylines. But is it? Did James, I mean, I'm not trying to call James Cameron out, but did he have some preconceived knowledge, Brother David? He had to have. And I know there's many other directors that also have. What is your take, David? And what do you think?
Someone in the chat put in there that Linda Hamilton, who played Sarah Connor, was married to James Cameron. Is that true? Do you know if that's correct, Brian?
If I remember correctly, I think that is true. And
I kind of think it is also. And
yeah.
that wouldn't that be interesting on how James Cameron views himself? That might say something about that with the attempt to prove Jesus didn't rise from the dead. And also, remember, if I remember correctly, that James Cameron, along with Johnny Depp and others, was involved in when they succeeded in getting Damien Eccles out of prison. There with the West Memphis Three, there in that ritual murder down there in Memphis, Tennessee. And that's another very interesting connection there with Mr. Cameron.
Well, I will, just to throw us out here, I know it has nothing to do with this film, but James Cameron has put a lot of time in the Avatar series. I'm talking trillion, there's billions of dollars invested here. And water excavation, I mean, he's been exploring the water, different things that applications and things that he has at his disposal. David, I think he's very intelligent, and I think he knows what he's doing. I'm not trying to prop him up, but I really do think he knows that this stuff is in here. He knows.
Well, he's very intelligent. He's very rich, and his views on Christianity are well known. He doesn't like Jesus. He was trying to prove he didn't raise from the dead. So yeah, and there's no doubting Mr. Cameron's genius. He's not a dumb fella. So, we have a lot of fertile ground there to believe that and all this stuff, my goodness, we've got predictive programming here, and my goodness, if we don't even want to start talking about the Avatar movies and the little blue people, would be here till sunrise. So yeah, everything in this is just deeply drenched in symbolism, numerology, and predictive programming.
I agree with that 100%, David. And I really do appreciate everybody dealing with us tonight, putting up with me. It takes a lot to run it and try to make sure she stays afloat, especially trying to present the material, and everything kind of didn't go as smooth as I wanted to. But guess what? We endured to the end, and I wanted to thank you all for being with us and attending with us tonight. And like I always say, your time is valuable to us, and we really do thank you all for that. And yeah, David, I think.
Well, let's do us a little Sunday night slam here, and we're tough here. We hang through all kinds of adversity here, and we just keep broadcasting, and that's what we do. And we're thankful for every time we get to lift up Jesus and the gospel, and to tell people that, Jesus will save your soul. You can repent and believe the gospel, and you can come to him right now. Whatever problem you have, Jesus is the answer for it. He really, really is. And if you appreciated this broadcast tonight, on the count of 3, hit that like button. It says here we only have 32 likes. Now, we've got to absolutely get that popped up. So let's get going on the count of 3. Let's do a little Sunday night slam. 1, 2, 3. Boom. Hit that like button. And also, if you have not subscribed to FOJC Radio Underground Church, please do so now. Hit that subscribe button. And if you have not subscribed to Visual Disturbance, Brian's channel, do so. It helps us very much in enabling us to be able to continue broadcasting with the just all of the force that we can. It's a help to us. So, Brian, any final thoughts before we wrap this up?
All I have to say, we'll be back. We'll be back next Sunday.
We'll be back. We'll be back. I see Sister Karen from Tasmania. Hey, Sister Karen. And see so many. Oh, Dan Badondi's in there. We got Johnny Kirk and Kate and Orlando. New listeners, too. Welcome to new listeners. A lot of our regulars are in there that we see all the time. We appreciate you so much. There's Gabe the Shepherd and Swamp Light and all our pals and new people too. So we're very, very thankful for that. And we love and appreciate it. We couldn't do what we do without you. And there's old Bill Connell. Yeah, Bill is just always there. We just appreciate all of you so much. So with that, until next Sunday night, 7 p.m. Central, a big high five and good night, everybody, from FOJC Radio Sunday Night Live. God bless y'all.